Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's in Chicago right now. We should be clear. See that Mark Grace poster behind you. We will be looking at playa props here in this episode. Also have best bets up in a separate one. So make sure to subscribe to that page and don't miss any of the action we're bringing you with like 14 games. There's only 2 teams not playing here on Monday. So we got plenty of options here. We are recording on Sunday night, so we are somewhat limited in the options, but we've got plenty to look at and a couple little bonus looks for you as well that we did the research for. So let's get right into your first playa prop here for Monday, Nate.
Yeah, Evan Mobley over 17.5 points. And last time I took him, I was trying to get the peripheral stats. I think I misread it. I think Evan Mobley is the guy who finishes possessions when the Cleveland Cavs are humming at their best here under Atkinson, right? I mean, he is in that kind of new Draymond Green role where he is the athletic decision maker who gets the ball in a 4-on-3 situation potentially, and then just finishes a lot of easy buckets. I mean, much better than they ever had with Draymond in terms of like getting the bucket there. And so in his last 9 here, he's gone over this in 7 in terms of points, 17.5. He's scoring 1.5 points per minute. And so that means only 29 minutes per game in these games because, you know, is he injured or the Cavs are blowing them out. Actually only injured one of those games, and also the 2 unders are against the Celtics and the Bucks. So very much a clear pattern here in terms of teams that can protect the paint, elite defensive teams. And Utah certainly is not that. They are in fact the dead last opponent 2-point percentage team here. And in the last 5, they're allowing 126. They're allowing 30 assists. They're allowing opponents to shoot over 50%. And that's all despite getting a absolutely wounded Nets team that they were able to actually post some good defensive numbers in that. But what did they give up to Ben Simmons? Still 15, 6, and 10, like a big line to Ben Simmons. So if you want like a much better version of Ben Simmons, enter Evan Mobley, who's really rolling before he had that injury against the Heat and just maybe needed a game or 2 to get back onto it. But now coming off a huge game against the Sixers, I think he's definitely good for some points against this weak Jazz defense.
Yeah, the only thing you worry about is how long will this be a game? It's just that's the only thing. Keontae George questionable. I don't know how that impacts the Jazz. I think if they have Kessler, Collins, Markkanen, Clarkson, which they will, then that's what they need, and they'll be good to go. And they have Sexton out there as well. So Keontae George or not, like I'm not concerned about it. They should be able to hang if they let those guys play their minutes. And it looks like a lot of their G Leaguer or guys that would be in there to get some minutes just because they want to get them some minutes, like the Filipkowskis who are 2-way guys. It looks like they're mostly going to be unavailable after whatever game their G League squad was playing. So yeah, I think that this should stay a little bit closer. You'll see the 32 to 36 minutes for the starters that Will Hardy plays when he doesn't have as deep of a bench. And so we'll get some better minutes for the Jazz out there to keep him in the game. Because otherwise that's the only thing that would scare me about Evan Mobley over in this one. Similar kind of situation here with the Orlando Magic, and whether or not they get blown out by the Celtics. But if Jalen Suggs plays, this man only knows one speed, and that's heart and hustle to at 100 max. So we're taking him for 5+ boards. That's plus 130. You actually get it plus 135 now on Bet365 as they just opened up some player props as we record this on Sunday night. But I got 5+ rebounds for him, plus 130 on DK. And now we got Mo Wagner out, man. That's why I'm also just going back into Orlando because, now we're talking about both the Wagners are gone. You had 2 Wagners, now you have none. You had a Paolo and a Banchero out there, and now you have none still. So, and Jalen Suggs is questionable. We saw him tweak his ankle, so this would void if he doesn't play. I'm not really worried about that for him. It seemed like he was willing to come back into the game against the Thunder itself, and they just kept him out just because they knew once the adrenaline stopped running, it wouldn't really be the same guy. But if you look at him without Franz and Paolo, man, and this includes the minutes that he's got Mo Wagner on the floor with him. His rebound chances have been insane the last 5 games without those guys, looking at about averaging 12.5 rebound chances in that period there. Has gotten at least 5 boards in 4 of the 5 as well. And then obviously didn't get to finish the game there in the last one after playing just 17 minutes. But if you also just look at him at any point this season when he's been on the floor without either Wagner or Paolo, he's added about 7 boards per 36 minutes, and he's averaging the 36 minutes in those 5 games without Paolo and Franz. And that I think will only go up even if they're like down 15 in the third quarter, right? For instance, Jalen Suggs will be out there running at full speed until you cut his actual ankle off. So that's why I like his boards a ton. They're going to need that help. And it is a good matchup for boards against a Celtics team that hoists threes. As a result, they are in the bottom 10 allowing rebounds to guards, and specifically point guards, but just guards in general. I don't really care which guard you are for Orlando. I think they're going to be good to get some points or some rebounds here, but I would never touch points or assists, honestly, against the Celtics defense at full strength. I'm good on that stuff.
No, yeah, I'm actually going to fade the points and assists, and I was putting that in there. But I like the call with the rebounds, and maybe the rebounds and assists together, they are pretty low together, just because he's gonna get the opportunities here. There's just nobody else to do any playmaking. But as far as like being the number one option, again, I tried to call this with against the Bucks in that cup game, and he just had an out of body experience. And since then, he's been completely ineffective as a number one option, right? In 2 games, and now you get the clamps from Drew. Yeah, I mean, good luck getting to 21 points, which is where he's even 21 and a half at some books. So I'm fully on board with fading that, but taking some of the peripheral stats.
And that leads us to one of our favorite ideas, which is the negative correlated bet. So you take some under on his points, some over on his boards, and bada bing, bada boom. I like it.
Bada bing. Speaking of which, yeah, another favorite is James Harden. Identifying the James Harden heads to the strip club spots, which I think we are approaching here after he plays on Monday. Get a nice break for Christmas. The Clippers do not play. So will he check out? Will that mean the Clippers get blown out in Memphis? I'd like to think so. So I don't have his prop up yet, but I'm fine fading. I think it'll probably be about 31.5 PRA. That's
I actually think you're going to get a better number than that. I think you're going to see like the lowest it opens is like 33, 34. Yeah.
Oh, well, that would be fantastic because, there was a stretch a couple months ago where it was at 31.5 and he was still going under at like an 8 out of 10 clip. And especially if you identify a good spot like this against a Grizzlies team that's charged up, that wants to beat the Clippers. They've lost 3 in a row to them, and they're just playing fantastic defense in waves. Number one limiting point guards in the last 7. See Stephen Curry, who had the worst game of his career, maybe.
I could remember.
Didn't make a field goal. I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen that before. As they wipe the floor with them, they're allowing overall 15 points, 2 threes in the last 7 to point guards, and the 4th assists per game overall. Harden has not found any success against the Grizz, even when he was the second or third option alongside PG and Kawhi. In these last 3, he's only averaging 12 on 29% shooting. Against the West this year, he's down to a 107 offensive rating versus 117 against the East, 4 fewer points per game. And recently, in 7 December games, he's kind of running out of steam. Really looking forward to that break. 4.5 rebounds and 6 assists. Those are both down considerably from the first 2 months of the season. And Memphis is an elite rebounding team. They're limiting assists, like I said, and they're going to be keyed in on Harden with a few different defenders to throw at him. So however you want to shake it, just take some Harden unders here.
Yep, totally agree. And after looking it up, the recent prop lines for him at points, rebounds, and assists in his last bunch of games, 35. This is all with a half in there. 35, 35, 36, 40, 39, 36, 39. You see what I'm saying? Like, I think you're going to like lowest 33, 34. I think only because Memphis is so good against the primary ball handler, call him the point guard, whatever you want to call him going under for sure in this one. And yeah, you've been the Harden under whisperer, and I've been tailing, and I've taken the mantle not from you. I've just sort of helped you move it along because I'm advocating for it big time with this dude. And Memphis, I've only been to Memphis a couple of times. I'm just telling you, they are up there in the country with top booby bars in the country there. So yeah, there is a correlation with James Harden, legit. Let me get to my last bet here, and I'm throwing 2 you guys away because we're early. We don't have lines for everything, but I'm going to take Jason Tatum. You can get over 9.5 rebounds now for plus money, And until the wheels fall off, baby, I've been talking about this since last playoffs. I think this is another mantle that you've helped me continue to move along as you found it yourself and been like, yeah, this is clearly a correlation where Kristaps Porzingis on the floor means more rebounds for Jason Tatum. And it's a wonderful bet because the public perception will continue to be that the center who is so good and tall for the Celtics is out there. So he's got to be the one getting the rebounds, and that should equate to fewer boards for Jason Tatum. And it's just not the case. And I mean, I think 10.5 is where I'd stop feeling as good about this bet. Maybe that's just the sort of mental block of being like, well, if it's double digits or less, I'm happy with it. But once he needs 11, but it is also just his rebounds per minute. We have such a nice gap. Like if you look at him with Kristaps on the floor, he's at 13 rebounds per 36 minutes. Granted, he's not playing 36 minutes with Kristaps, but he is playing 34, 35 minutes. And a lot of those are with Kristaps starting lineup and then start of the third quarter and into the fourth as well. So he's in lineups with Kristaps predominantly when Kristaps is playing. So I love that. And actually, if you take Al Horford off the floor with Kristaps on the floor with Tatum, it goes up a rebound per 36 at 14 rebounds per 36 minutes. So like I said, projecting him for 10 to 11 rebounds, I'm projecting him for 11 consistently with the minutes that he's playing. The scary part for him, and the reason I'd also like to give you one more bet that I'm looking at, is because if this might not be close for very long against an Orlando team that if Jalen Suggs does not play, that's when I think I would stay away from this bet. If Jalen Suggs is out there, I think they'll at least have enough offense to be down by 15 to 17 points, whatever it takes to keep Tatum out there for 30 plus minutes, whatever that score is. I think Jalen Suggs' presence will at least be able to keep things that close, mostly because of his defense and what he brings, and the fact that when he's on the court, we know Cole Anthony's not on the court, thank the Lord, and then that means that there's not just an easy three-point shot coming for the Celtics whenever Cole Anthony's out there. I don't think they can really play him, to be honest, but either way, that's why I love the Tatum stuff unless it's a blowout, which would be because there is no Jalen Suggs. Paul George, I'm also going to throw his boards out there because I've really been trying to break down on-off court stuff with he and Joel Embiid, and it's very clear that when it's Embiid, Maxey, Paul George, and throw Tsunami Papi, throw Kelly Oubre in the lineup with him as well, whatever you want to do, Paul George is the odd man out in terms of knowing how and where to go to score. What he is very good at is getting boards and just figuring out how to get involved and get his hands on the ball in other ways. And that's why he's actually at about 9 boards per 36 minutes in the minutes that he's played with JoJo and Tyrese Maxey out there as well. And when he plays out there without Kelly Oubre, he gets a few more rebounds. And then there will be some Drummond minutes, obviously, as the backup, which Paul George also a very good rebounder with Andre Drummond on the floor. So I've been eyeing his assists, but the good news is it's not as likely if you also throw KJ Martin out there as the power forward who will be starting alongside Joel. That's who they start when Joel is able to start. KJ Martin, not very good rebounder, 3 rebounds per 36 when he's out there with the starters. And Paul George is the one getting those rebounds to get involved and then get going in the fast break and all that. So like Paul George on the boards, like Maxey to score in that game as the guy to get the points, but Paul George to get the boards.
Yeah, so you're probably leaning more towards PG if you're going to bet anything early because you're going to want to wait and see on Suggs.
Correct.
For Tatum, I'd probably lean more towards Paul George anyway, just because, I worry that the Celtics are going to be on a mission and cover that 9, and then you're not going to get enough minutes for Tatum. And I do think that Spurs-Sixers game could be pretty choppy, a lot of rebounding opportunities, and PG gonna have to mix it up down there with some pretty sizable wings.
Yeah, and the Spurs are giving up a lot of rebounds to power forwards and small forwards, so just forwards in general. They're in the bottom 8, limiting to just whichever forward you want to do there, which makes sense with Wemby. You got to box him out, which leads the ability. It's the same with Embiid. He's boxing out. I think those 2 centers will go at it and give some rebounds to some other guys. But that is all the time we have for you in the Play Up Props. Definitely make sure to subscribe to that page. We will be back after the little break on Tuesday with a bunch more stuff this week, including some NFL Play Up Props, as we always have. So definitely make sure to subscribe. Until we see you next. Happy betting.